In our last episode, we repaired the limb actuators on Liberty Prime so that the giant robot can walk. Proctor Ingram now wants us to head to the glowing sea to see if we can find some bombs that it can throw around. But before doing that, we need to get to know the Brotherhood of Steel a little bit better. They've been such an important part of the plot so far that they've sort of stepped in and out of the primary plot from time to time, giving us bits and pieces of lore, giving us an opportunity to know certain characters, but really never giving us a solid moment to understand the Brotherhood as a faction. And so we're gonna take some time to do that now. We arrived at the Prydwen all the way back in episode 13. But at the time, we were so busy with trying to build the signal interceptor that we didn't have time to focus on exploring the Prydwen. Today, we'll explore the Prydwen, get to know all of the people we didn't already get to know in episode 13, and uncover the Brotherhood's lore to find out exactly why they're here. Captain Kells will say something over the PA system every time we arrive at the Prydwen. Here are some of the best highlights of his announcements.
Attention, this is a reminder. Any recovered historical, technological, or social documentation should be delivered directly to Proctor Quinlan. Attention all personnel. I'm disappointed I need to address this, but unsanctioned social contact with Commonwealth natives is strictly prohibited. Anyone who is engaged in such fraternization should report to Knight Captain Cade for immediate decontamination. Attention! Any personnel who have not completed their annual medical evaluation should report to Knight Captain Cade immediately to schedule an examination. Attention! Due to increased raider activity, all leave requests to off-base sites have been temporarily suspended.
Don't let Maxon's age...
Affected parties will have their leave compensated at the next available opportunity. That is all. Attention all personnel. This is to serve as a reminder. Scribe Naraya's mole rat subjects are not pets. They are crucial military resources. As such, they are not to be fed by any personnel save Scribe Naraya and her team. Any violation of this policy will result in severe discipline.
Immediately turning around from the ladder, we find 3 rooms. The door to the right, to Prydwen quarters, is locked and requires a key. The door directly behind the ladder is Elder Maxon's room. Stepping inside, we see that most of his possessions are set to owned, so understandably we can't steal them, but his terminal is not set to owned, so we can read it. Inside we find quite a few entries. In the first, from Captain Kells regarding Paladin Hudson. We've picked up some disturbing news regarding a rise in supermutant activity near the Commonwealth, and Paladin Hudson has bravely volunteered to single-handedly investigate. This mission will take the Paladin deep into hostile territory, so he'll need all the support we can provide. I'm having Tegan give Paladin Hudson an ample supply of ammunition and making sure Ingram certifies that his power armor is in peak condition. I'm also allowing Paladin Hudson full use of one of our vertibird gunships, so I'll have one prepped immediately. Once everything is ready, I'll meet you and Paladin Hudson on the flight deck so we can give him a proper send-off. I can't stress to you enough how dangerous this mission will be, so it's imperative that we provide the Paladin with all the support we can muster. In the next one, Kells, Recon Squad Artemis. From Lancer Captain Kells to Elder Maxon. As requested, I'm providing you with all of the current information we have on Recon Squad Artemis. According to our records, we sent them into the Commonwealth approximately 3 years ago to perform a standard survey, beginning with the Malden area. We received a few reports from the team and then abruptly lost contact. Nothing in their communications indicated anything unusual, so we assume they've either lost the ability to radio us or have been killed. The squad consisted of 7 soldiers under the command of Paladin Brandis, so they certainly had plenty of firepower and the experience required to survive a deep recon mission. I have several recon teams searching for Artemis's whereabouts, but so far, they've been unsuccessful. We remember when talking with Paladin Dance that his wasn't the first recon team sent to the Commonwealth.
It might surprise you to learn that my recon team isn't the first to visit the Commonwealth. Over the last 7 years, 2 other teams were sent here by the Brotherhood to gather technology. The first team's mission was a huge success. They came back with crates full of pre-war artifacts and historical documents. The second wasn't so fortunate. Shortly after they arrived, we lost contact with them. They haven't been heard from since.
Artemis was one of the recon teams sent before him, but the Brotherhood has no idea what happened to it. In the next one, from Ingram, Prydwen concerns. As you know, in order to get the Prydwen rapidly to the Commonwealth, I had my engineering team pull her older power plant and replace it with an updated fusion plant we pulled from that aircraft carrier wreckage. I was able to squeeze almost 100% efficiency from the new reactor, but the system is burning through our coolant supply faster than expected. As we've been docked over the airport, I've been able to deactivate the main engines to cool down the reactor, but we're still eating up coolant when we're in hover mode. We're eventually going to hit a point where we'll run out of coolant. If that happens, we'll need to put the Prydwen on the ground. I desperately need your help if you want to prevent that from happening. I'll be certain to provide you with the details at our next briefing. So there's a countdown timer on the Prydwen. If they run out of coolant, the Prydwen sinks. Where will the Brotherhood find this coolant? Also here, Ingram says that she got the reactor for the Prydwen from quote-unquote that aircraft carrier. Well, after playing Fallout 3, the only aircraft carrier we find in the Capital Wasteland is, of course, Rivet City. It wasn't an enemy base, it wasn't hostile to the Brotherhood, it was a civilian city. We don't know if Rivet City gave their fusion reactor up to the Brotherhood freely, but I doubt that they ever would. This gives me great concern for the residents of Rivet City, and makes me wonder what their fate was after the loss of their nuclear reactor. In the next one, from Cade, concerning Proctor Ingram, as requested, I've sent over my evaluation of Proctor Ingram's capabilities in the field. In my professional opinion, Ingram is fully capable of handling field operations and would benefit any team fortunate enough to have her with them. Before the Prydwen left the Capital Wasteland, I spent 6 months helping her design the power armor frame she's using to enhance her mobility. She's trained in the armor rigorously and is fully qualified, actually more than qualified to be placed with our ground troops. I've been treating wounded soldiers for almost 2 decades, and I've yet to see anyone that can match Ingram's level of commitment and determination. Confining her to this ship would be a waste of resources and a damn shame. When we talked with Proctor Ingram after first meeting her, passing a number of charisma checks, we learned more about her personal story and how she's still rather upset that she's stuck aboard the Prydwen, that she's stuck at the airport, that she can't go on field missions. And the next one, from Tegan, regarding an armored jacket. You'll be pleased to know that work on the armored reinforcement plating for your jacket is complete, and I'll be more than happy to send up a scribe to retrieve it when you're ready. The plating is fairly strong, but I think you'll appreciate how lightweight the entire jacket will feel once the modification is made. I've stress tested the plating, and it should help you resist different types of energy weapon fire, as well as most ballistic threats. After you try it on, let me know if it's comfortable to wear long term, or if I need to make any adjustments to the design. He's talking about Elder Maxon's armored coat that we first saw during his big speech upon arriving in the Commonwealth, and that we looted from his body if we chose to side with the Institute or the Railroad. It is one of the best pieces of armor in the game, and we learn here that it's custom made for Elder Maxon by Proctor Tegan. And the next one, from Captain Kells regarding Fort Strong. According to Proctor Quinlan, we have a serious security threat on our hands. There's a sizable stockpile of Fat Man shells being kept nearby at the remains of Fort Strong. More disturbingly, the facility is currently held by a super mutant contingent of unknown size. I'm certain I don't have to remind you that the super mutants are smart enough to utilize the weapons, and that the Prydwen is well within a Fat Man launcher's range. I urge you to send someone down there immediately to deal with this threat before we end up as targets for their nuclear arsenal. The following entries appear after we've achieved certain milestones in the primary plot, the first one appearing after we defeat the mutants at Fort Strong. From Kells, Fort Strong Update. I wanted to inform you that I'm having all of the Fat Man shells recovered from Fort Strong moved from the armory ruins to the lower cargo area of the Prydwen. This will ensure that the weapons remain protected as we prepare for our assault on the Institute. Yes, that will definitely protect them. It totally won't turn the Prydwen into a nuclear disaster waiting to happen. In the next one, from Ingram Institute data, this one appears after we give the network scanner back to Proctor Ingram when we return from the Institute for the first time. I'm pleased to report that our new recruit has returned from the Institute with a holotape full of sensitive data. I've given the tape to Proctor Quinlan so his team can begin decrypting the information immediately. As soon as we have any concrete information, I'll be sure to let you know. And in the final one, for now, from Ingram regarding Liberty Prime. Now that the gantry is complete, construction on Liberty Prime can begin. I've pulled almost my entire engineering team onto the project, as well as some of Quinlan's scribes to assist with the complex calculations needed to get him on his feet. If our new recruit is successful, we'll have the rest of the parts we need to complete the project, and you can march Prime right up to the Institute's front door. It sounds like this terminal will update as we continue to complete quests for the Brotherhood. We'll have to come back later and see how this terminal changes. Leaving Elder Maxon's quarters and turning right, we find Captain Kell's personal quarters. Many of the containers here are not set to owned and we can loot them. And on his desk is a terminal, Captain Kell's terminal. Inside we find 5 options. And the first, from Maxon. Captain, I need you to prepare the Prydwen for departure. Archivist Knox has completed the analysis of the energy readings we received from Paladin Dance's recon team and has concluded that they are being produced by the Institute. Knox is certain that the energy readings could only be produced by artificial means and only with an extremely advanced level of technology. Judging from the frequency of the readings, we both agree that some type of device or weapon is being deployed by the Institute, which means we need to head to the Commonwealth as soon as possible. I'm not certain what type of ploy the Institute is attempting to unleash upon the world, but I'll be damned if I'm gonna stand by idly and let it happen. Of course, he's talking about the Institute relay here, and specifically he's talking about a terminal entry we read about back on Paladin Dance's terminal at the Cambridge police station. One of his earlier messages back to the Capital Wasteland included his discovery of the strange energy spikes, which we now know came from the Institute's relay. This was the recon data that Paladin Dance was trying to send back to the Brotherhood in the Capital Wasteland when we first met him at the Cambridge police station, but he couldn't because the antenna on top of the station was damaged. By helping Dance at ArcJet, giving Halen what she needed to repair the antenna, Dance was able to relay this information to Maxon back in Washington, D.C.
Why did the Brotherhood send it here in the first place?
I'm not sure, but I think it might have something to do with the data on the Commonwealth my team gathered before it arrived.
It's this message that caused Elder Maxon to decide to come to the Commonwealth. And the next one, from Ingram. All stations are reporting green, and all personnel are aboard the Prydwen. I've gone over her from the bow to stern, and she's ready to depart. With all due respect, it would be helpful if you could let me know exactly where we're headed. It's difficult preparing this vessel properly, not knowing what type of environment we're flying her through. I'm well aware that we're pointed north, but just how far are we going? And what can we expect when we get there, Captain? So the fact that they were going to Boston was kept secret from everyone, including many of the proctors. That may explain why Arthur Maxon only divulged the true purpose of their mission after they already arrived, which is why we were able to witness it. And the next one, from Cade. And here we find the exact same message that he sent to Arthur Maxon, telling them that Proctor Ingram was fit for duty. He really went out of his way to make sure that every authority knew that she was capable in the field. And the next one, from Proctor Tegan. Now that we've arrived in the Commonwealth, I'd like to establish trade relations with the locals. I'm going to need a standard sweep and retrieve team and one of our vertibirds in order to make that happen. There are several caravans that roam the Commonwealth, and we'll use the vertibirds to track them. If any of the caravans get jumped, we can swoop in and lend a hand to let them know that we're the friendly eye in the sky. Since you can't normally buy that kind of protection from mercenaries, we'll be certain to get the best prices and value for trades. I've used the same tactic in the capital wasteland, and it worked wonders. Out here, with the threat of the Institute looming over their heads, we'll have these merchants eating out of our hands. But what he doesn't say here is that it might also feel a tad threatening. Imagine your trash can Carla walking down the street with a Brahmin and a mercenary caravan guard. A vertibird appears out of the sky and just follows you, mile after mile. Not doing anything, not saying anything, just following you. And then a bunch of raiders jump you, or you stumble upon some super mutants, and it unloads on them, saving you, but then continues to follow you quietly. That is intimidation. In the last one, from Quinlan. After examining technical documentation brought in by one of our patrols, I've identified Fort Strong as a priority target. The location was an experimental weapons testing facility, and according to their manifests, it should still contain a sizable stockpile of Fat Man shells. According to the patrol, the fort is inhabited by super mutants, so we're in serious jeopardy of losing the stockpile if something isn't done immediately. And we find no further entries on Captain Kill's terminal. Backing out, we find a number of options. We could go straight toward the galley, but we also find some staircases to the right and to the left leading up and down. We'll start by going downstairs to the very bottom of the ship. Explore this first, then work our way up. If we turn south to explore the stern of the ship, we don't find anything. So turning north, heading towards the prow, we do find one platform filled with barrels and boxes and beer. It appears to be a relaxation area for soldiers who are off duty. It's being patrolled by a soldier. We find a Nuka-Cola on one of the tables and a recreation terminal on a nearby shelf. Inside, we find 5 entries. The first comes from Proctor Ingram. Feel free to use this terminal to unwind. I've disconnected it from the Prydwen's mainframe, but keep it clean or I'm shutting it down permanently. If you've got a problem with that, keep it to yourself. In the next one, from Proctor Tegan, Ingram told me about the rec section under the main deck. I've contributed a few bottles of liquor and some cigarettes, but I don't have an endless supply. If you need refills, come see me and we'll do a trade. And the next one, from Womack. If anyone's up for it, I'm organizing a little nighttime feral hunt that's strictly off the books. I don't give a damn about the synths. These ghouls are disgusting, and we need to keep thinning them out before they infest the entire Commonwealth. I'm pretty sure we can start with the Cambridge Crater. See me if you're interested. And with that, if we haven't discovered it already, we get the location of the Cambridge Crater on our Pip-Boy. And the next one, Delacroix. McLaren got his suit wiped out trying to drop from the top of Trinity Tower, so the current record holder is still Petrus with his Prydwen to ground drop. Remember, no leg armor mods allowed, just a clean jump with standard T60, and you've got to be able to walk away. No exceptions. And if we hadn't discovered it by now, we get the location of Trinity Tower added to our Pip-Boy. In the final one, Flores. I don't remember who was asking, but someone was looking for Mirelurk eggs. On my last patrol, we swept through Neponset Park, and I saw a few nests, but Kells had me carrying a ton of gear. If you want to head out there, I'm sure you can pick up some of the eggs for yourself. And with that, if we hadn't discovered it by now, we get Neponset Park, marked as a location on our map. Continuing north down the gangway, we find the stockpile of mini-nukes that we secured from Fort Strong. We even find 3 lying out that we can loot. Some of the canisters are open. There's got to be a more secure way of storing these munitions. With that, we fully explore the lower cargo area. And so retracing our steps back the way we came, we can go back to the mid-deck to continue exploring towards the galley. To the right, we find Proctor Quinlan, whom we've already met.
Quinlan?
Never expected Dr. Lee would return to the Brotherhood. But you're not here to discuss history, are you? Are there documents you wanted to turn in? Or were you here to help with a research patrol?
When we first met him, he gave us a quest to collect technical documents. And if we have any on our inventory, we can turn them into him.
I found some technical documents for you.
And they're in wonderful condition as well. Excellent work. Here are the caps that I promised. Remember, the Commonwealth is an almost unlimited source for these technical documents. Check every building you explore during your patrols very carefully, and you might be pleasantly surprised at what you find.
We get 25 caps per technical document, and this quest is ongoing. It never ends. Exploring his office, we find a holotape on his filing cabinet, Quinlan to be deleted.
Damn it, Scribe. I told you I didn't want the corners bent. The issues were to be in mint condition.
I'm sorry, Proctor, but this is the only limited edition annual we've recovered. Even before the bombs fell, this was the rarest issue. The one where Grognak dies and comes back to life?
Yes, Scribe. I've read the 2076 underlain price guide from cover to cover, so I'm well aware of its past value. The fault for this travesty rests squarely on your shoulders, because you chose to ignore the important lesson I taught you. Which is?
Always bag and board. I'm sorry, sir. You're absolutely right. And I promise it will never... Sir? What's that red blinking light on your terminal?
What? Oh, damn it all! I left it in record mode. Just let me...
So, Proctor Quinlan turns out to be an avid collector of Grognak the Barbarian. The irony, of course, is that when we met him in episode 13, he went on a long rant about how fiction that doesn't include technical specifications that could be of use to the Brotherhood was a waste of paper.
Those books aren't a waste of paper.
If they don't expand the Brotherhood's technological knowledge, they're useless. There are other scribes within the Brotherhood that consider fictional material essential. But I refuse to allow them aboard this vessel.
But he's a complete hypocrite. Turns out he loves fiction. Comic books, to be precise. After listening to the holotape, we can read his personal terminal. And inside we find 3 options. In the first recon data listings, this opens up a menu with 5 more options, each of which adds a new location to our map if we have not already discovered them. In the first hardware town, former retail location, very likely to contain useful scrap or raw materials. Raiders last seen inhabiting location, proceed with caution. Raiders may be stockpiling ammunition or weapons as well. Suggest all sweep and retrieve teams recover what they can. And that places Hardware Town as a location on our map. And the next, Vault-Tech Vault 75. Vault-Tech constructed a vault in the basement of Malden Middle School. Data suggests the vault was created to experiment on children, but its purpose has been struck from all records. Would like to retrieve as much data as possible from the location, as well as any technological artifacts that were left behind. And that places the location of the Malden Middle School on our map. Next, Robotics Disposal Ground. Junkyard littered with remains of pre-war robots. Scouting Patrol reported a possible military-grade sentry bot that looks serviceable. Location likely to contain spare parts or electronic materials. And reading this places the location of the Robotics Disposal Ground on our map. And the next one, BADTFL Regional Office. Facility was former location for Bureau of Alcohol, Drugs, Tobacco, Firearms, and Lasers. Data suggests evidence lockers on site may still contain viable weapons or other useful equipment. Warning, scouting units have observed raiders operating in the area. And this, of course, places the location of the BADTFL Regional Office on our map. In the final one, General Atomics Factory. Factory was designed for the manufacture and repair of Miss Nanny robots. Site likely to contain technological artifacts and/or documentation, as well as spare parts Proctor Ingram might find useful. The chance for automated security at this location is high, so proceed with caution. And that places the location of the General Atomics Factory on our map. Backing out of recon data listings, we can now explore Prydwen internal mail. And here we find 4 entries, in the first from Maxon. After we arrive in the Commonwealth, I want you to begin organizing sweep and retrieve teams. Take as many men as you need and coordinate the duty roster with Lancer Captain Kells. I want as much information about these energy readings from Dance's team as you can find. We could be on the brink of discovering the location of the Institute, so this needs to be your top priority. And the next one, also from Maxon, Proctor Ingram is requesting any information that will assist her reconstruction efforts. I've passed along your gantry design to Kells, and we're both confident that it'll be completed by the time her project is ready. We have a lot of resources riding on the success of Ingram's mission, so I expect you to help her in any way that you can. Oh, so Quinlan designed the gantry used to support Liberty Prime. Interesting. In the next one, from Proctor Ingram, I've sent over the proper forms to requisition 2 more scribes, and you denied them? I don't need you slowing me down on this, Quinlan. Maxon keeps hounding me for results, but getting anything done with this project has been like trying to field strip a laser rifle without using your hands. I need all the help I can get, and if that means taking a few troops away from your scouting missions, I'm afraid you'll just have to make do. Now sign the damn forms, and let me do my job. Oh, not all is quiet on the Brotherhood front. We begin to see exactly why Quinlan is so eager to enlist our help in finding technical documents. And in the final one, from Scribe Naraya to Proctor Quinlan. This one appears after we return from the Institute with the network scanner. I've checked the data 3 additional times to confirm, and I'm positive that the DNA sample we have on file for Paladin Dance matches the DNA sample you provided. I'm not certain why you're having me do these readings, but I can assure you that my data is accurate. Could you at least tell me where the sample you found originated from? Huh. Why is Quinlan investigating Paladin Dance's DNA sample? Backing out of his mail, we find an option called The Rise of Elder Maxon, and here we find a bit of a lore dump of everything that has happened to the Brotherhood since the events of Fallout 3. In the first one, Opening Notes, these entries are my attempt at writing a timeline documenting Elder Maxon's rise within the ranks of the Brotherhood. It's my sincerest wish that these entries will one day be compiled in a classic printed book format and distributed throughout the wasteland. Long live Elder Maxon, and long live the Brotherhood. In the next one, Background. Despite the defeat of the Enclave in the capital wasteland, the Brotherhood of Steel was still an organization divided. The Outcasts, a splinter faction that left the safety of the Citadel, still struggled to survive in the capital wasteland, separated from their parent organization. And while some of the Brotherhood members within the Citadel had no desire to reunite with their quote-unquote disgraced brothers, many saw the advantage in bolstering their own forces with warriors already trained and indoctrinated by the Brotherhood of Steel. Surely they could work out any philosophical issues? This is referencing the splinter group called the Outcasts that emerged in the capital wastelands during the events of Fallout 3. Essentially what happened is Elder Lyons put the health and welfare of the Wastelanders, the people of the capital wastelands, above the Brotherhood's desire to acquire technology. In so doing, he disobeyed his orders from the elders on the West Coast, and the West Coast elders essentially cut him off, no longer giving him any support and cutting off all communication with him. This enraged many of the hardliners within the Brotherhood, who felt like their focus should be on retrieving and hoarding technology, not helping people in the capital wasteland. They actually rebelled against the Brotherhood and became a splinter faction called the Outcasts that I explored in a dedicated video on the topic that I will link in the description below. In the next one, Elder Maxon. Enter Arthur Maxon, young squire to both Owen and Sarah Lyons, and descendant of the very founder of the Brotherhood of Steel, Roger Maxon. When Elder Owen Lyons died, care of young Arthur Maxon passed to Sarah Lyons, Owen's daughter, who was then named Elder in his place. But when Sarah fell in battle shortly thereafter, things became complicated. The Brotherhood of Steel, based in the Citadel, found itself in need of leadership and began appointing one ineffective elder after another. We met Arthur Maxson as a young child during the events of Fallout 3. We find him in the Citadel, and he practically worshipped Sarah Lyons. It's nice to know that after Owen Lyons died, Sarah took care of Arthur Maxson, but we learn here that she died young in battle. We have no idea who became Elder or how many Elders there were after Sarah Lyons. In the next one, accomplishments. As the years passed and Arthur Maxson grew, so too did his accomplishments. At age 12, while on a training patrol, he killed 2 raiders and saved the squad that was supposed to be escorting him. At age 13, he single-handedly killed a Deathclaw and gained the large facial scar he still has to this day. But it was his victory at age 15 over the supermutant Shepard, who was attempting to reorganize the Capital Wasteland supermutants, that elevated him to hero-like status. When word of this feat reached the Elders back on the West Coast, they knew the time had come. Maxson was ready to lead and, more importantly, to reunite the fragmented Brotherhood of Steel forces on the East Coast. This kind of reads like mythology a bit. I mean, we really have no reason to believe that Quinlan is lying here, but really, come on. Killing raiders at the age of 12? Single-handedly defeating a Deathclaw at the age of 13? Defeating a super mutant overlord and his army at the age of 15. I mean, not completely out of the realm of possibility, but very, very unlikely. One wonders if Arthur Maxson here is trying to establish his own type of mythology, much like the king that is his namesake. In the next one, our new leader. So it was that a year later, when he was only 16 years old, Arthur Maxson brokered a peace with the Outcasts, reintegrating them into the Brotherhood of Steel, and proving he was as effective a diplomat as he was a warrior. Now reunited, the full force of the Brotherhood of Steel appointed Arthur Maxson as Elder, the youngest in Brotherhood of Steel history. And this can't be denied. The Outcasts are no more. They were welcomed back into the fold of the Brotherhood of Steel, likely because their primary reason for becoming outcasts was gone. Owen Lyons and his daughter Sarah Lyons were dead, and it sounds like under Arthur Maxson, the Brotherhood turned away from being a charitable organization to once again making the acquisition of technology their primary focus. In the last one, Aftermath. Elder Maxson reigns supreme in the Capital Wasteland, and his authority and influence have been spreading across the eastern seaboard thanks in no small part by the mobility afforded by the Prydwen. He has the full support of the Elders back on the West Coast, who have proudly reported that they've begun eradicating cults that have popped up, worshipping Maxson as though he's some kind of god. Maxson himself is almost offended by the idea of being referred to as a deity, as it goes against everything he believes in. Arthur Maxson is happy to be one thing: the perfect human specimen, an example of everything a human being can achieve. Assisted, even enhanced by advanced technology, but still very human. Whoa! Exactly what kind of advanced technology is assisting or enhancing Elder Maxson? Could this enhancement perhaps explain how he was able to defeat a Deathclaw single-handedly at the age of 13? We've seen Elder Maxson. We don't see any cybernetic implants, though perhaps they are hidden under his clothes. Could he have taken some sort of technological serum that gave him super strength? We don't know. It's not explained. Backing out of the terminal, we can talk with Quinlan again. Because remember, in addition to sending us off to collect technical documents, when we met him during episode 13, he asked us to assist him with research patrols. We can now volunteer our services.
I've got time to assist on a patrol.
That's the spirit. While our scribes are well trained, combat is not their specialty. Meet the scribe on the ground. Your mission is to escort and protect a scribe while locating a data source. Once found, the scribe will extract the data, and you'll return both data and scribe safely back to the base.
With that, we begin the Radiant quest, Learning Curve. We now need to speak to the Brotherhood scribe. We don't know where we're going yet because that location isn't provided to us until we talk to the scribe. The scribe is on the ground at the airport, standing to the south of Liberty Prime's gantry.
Reporting for duty, sir.
What's the mission?
Research patrol. I'm collecting data, and you're watching my back, sir.
Maybe later.
Standing by, sir.
I wouldn't be here otherwise. Now would I?
Pardon me, sir. This is the area. Lead on, sir.
Let's do this.
Roger that. I'll mark the location on your map. After you, sir.
Now we have the location. It's randomly selected from a pool of locations we can be sent to for Radiant quests in the game. In this instance, we need to go to the South Boston military checkpoint. However, we have to be very careful because the scribe can be killed on this mission. If we just race through an area or lose sight of the scribe can die and we'll get a notification that we've failed the quest. But that doesn't mean that we walk away with nothing. If the scribe dies, we can head back to Proctor Quinlan and tell him the sad news.
Ah, you're back. How did the scribe fare?
What are the mission details again?
Protect the scribe during data recovery. Fairly easy to remember.
I don't know.
Oh dear. This does not bode well.
Moron got herself killed. That another?
These scribes are thinkers, not soldiers. I will notify the proper parties. In the meantime, these patrols must continue. They are essential to our cause. Another scribe will be prepped, should you choose to take on another research patrol. But please, do be more careful next time.
The scribe didn't make it. Give me another chance.
Didn't make it? So the mission failed and the data is lost. A real shame. I expected more from you, Knight. It's shocking, really, the loss. However, these patrols must go on. Our scribes are prepared to make the sacrifice in pursuit of furthering the Brotherhood's knowledge. So, once you're ready, another scribe will be too.
We still get caps, and we still get experience. But to complete the quest properly, we have to be very careful and actually escort this scribe. Because like every Brotherhood soldier in the game, the scribe just barrels into any sort of danger that we stumble upon. So if we wander too close to a super mutant den or a raider den, the scribe will just race towards them in a suicide mission. It's a really annoying quest in that regard. Incidentally, while I was doing this quest, I stumbled upon an old friend.
You. My life really hit the bottom when you showed up.
Useful.
You're lucky I'm so compassionate, else I'd punch you in the face for all the trouble you caused. I'll be back. One day, Skinny Malone's gonna be the king of the castle again. My crew threw me out of the vault. Me! Skinny Malone!
It's Skinny Malone. We get this random encounter if we convince Skinny Malone to dump Darla and stand down. Remember, we met Skinny Malone in episode 5 when we were rescuing Nick Valentine from Vault 114. And here he is in the wasteland all by his lonesome. At any rate, we need to head to the South Boston checkpoint. I covered this location in a previous video. There's a little bit of minimal lore here, but I won't cover it again now. Instead, we need to clear the place of gunners so that the scribe can access the data. Once clear of enemies, we'll find a terminal here. If we access the terminal before the scribe gets to it, we'll find a new option that was added to the terminal at the beginning of this quest, labeled Database Network Offline. If we access it, we read that database network access is granted to authorized personnel only. Apparently, our scribe has this access, for the scribe walks to the terminal, hacks into it, and recovers the data. We complete this portion of the quest. If we access the terminal afterwards, we see that the option now says Database Network Online, and when we access it, we see that everything has been deleted. For your safety, this database is now property of the Brotherhood of Steel. Ad Victoriam. Heading back to the Prydwen, the scribe disappears and is no longer following us, and we can check in with Proctor Quinlan.
Finished your mission?
Not yet.
Well then, get to it.
What do you think, smart guy?
Come now, there's no call for that. Here's something for your considerable troubles. We'll be sending out scribes again soon, so check back if you can lend a hand.
Yes, sir.
Good. Here's your payment. Now, we do have more scribes lined up and ready to go. Be sure to find me if you can assist again.
We complete the quest learning curve, and we get the same reward in caps and experience that we got by failing it. Proctor Quinlan offers us the quest almost immediately, but we're going to move on and continue exploring the Prydwen. Next, we can go to Sickbay, the realm of Knight Captain Cade. There's nothing new of note inside Cade's doctor's office, though there are plenty of chems lying all over the place, and they're all free to take. Talking with Cade, we see that he's become a merchant.
I must commend you. Convincing Dr. Lee to return to the Brotherhood, I didn't think it was possible. Now, are you in need of treatment?
What's new, Doc?
Got nothing. Sorry. Just trying to practice medicine.
Yeah. Take a look at me, Doc.
All right, soldier. You'll be fine. Just tell me what the trouble is.
And he's the Brotherhood's only doctor. On a shelf behind him, we find a holotape, Knight Captain Cade's report.
Medical report, Knight Captain Cade reporting. I've been working closely with Scribe Naraya, examining some of the synth bodies that our recon teams have recovered.
Something I
Even
can
though
do
we
for you,
have
soldier?
yet to recover the synths that appear completely human, these lesser models are still astoundingly advanced. What's becoming apparent is that the Institute is the most technologically gifted enemy we've ever encountered, and therefore exceedingly dangerous. I've turned over all of my data to Lancer Captain Kells, along with my recommendations for developing effective countermeasures for these synths. Unfortunately, I'm not sure how much it will help, given the fact that the real enemy are the synths that could be hiding among us.
All right, so a bit paranoid, but understandably so given the Institute's reputation. They've captured a lot of synths, but no Gen 3 synths just yet. They don't know exactly what to look for in a Gen 3 synth. I wonder if they'll ever find one. Next, after looting some first aid kits, we can read Knight Captain Cade's terminal. Inside we find two options in the first, medical files. We open up the files of a number of soldiers here aboard the Prydwen. In the first, medical file DN407P treated, we see that this is Paladin Dance's medical file. Patient symptoms include inability to sleep and a dull throbbing pain in his head. All standard tests are negative. Evidence suggests post-traumatic stress disorder or similar issue. Until severity of issue increases, recommend voluntary removal from active duty. Patient was informed, but is currently in the field. This is on brand for Paladin Dance. He's completely self-sacrificial. He would sacrifice everything for the Brotherhood, even his health and well-being. In the next one, IG Ingram, I think, ongoing. Yes, this is Proctor Ingram's. Patient is complaining of phantom pain from limb loss. Previously prescribed painkiller and Stimpack mixture appears ineffective. Dosage has been increased to 300 milligrams a day, which is maximum allowable to remain duty capable. Patient also describes nightmares of limb loss incident, which is not unusual considering the level of trauma. We'll continue to monitor. This reads like a really debilitating issue, and yet Cade has repeatedly urged his superiors to put Ingram back in the field. In the next one, TG, that must be Tegan, Proctor Tegan. Patient slipped and fell due to intoxication, causing minor laceration on forehead and contusion to upper chest. Applied Stimpack and recommended a minimum 8-hour bed rest. This is third intoxication-related medical incident for patient, so I ordered treatment program to begin, as per regulations. Why does it not surprise me that Proctor Tegan is a bit of a drunk? The terminal we read in cargo now makes a lot more sense. He donated a bunch of beer, because he had extras on hand. And the next one, MR, deceased. Knight Sergeant Merrick. Patient returned from patrol with critical injuries from exposure to nuclear warhead detonation. Injuries, left arm and leg missing, severe internal trauma, left hemisphere of head severely burned, and acute radiation poisoning. Attempted emergency surgery, but patient died after 3 hours. Patient's remains were incinerated, as per regulations. He must have come toe-to-toe with the super mutant suicider, or maybe a gunner with a Fat Man launcher. But from this entry, we learn what the Brotherhood does with their dead. They cremate them, which I suppose makes a lot of sense. In the final one, Medical Files OG treated. Engineering scribe Osridge. Patient suffering from discoloration/rash, pustules, and radioactive residue in groin area. Symptoms consistent with sexually transmitted disease from ghoul species. Patient treated and report has been sent to Proctor Ingram as per regulations. Oh, okay. We just learned you can contract an STD from a ghoul.
Those species aren't my type. Good. I find the practice highly distasteful myself.
Well, talk about world building. Ugh. Backing out of medical files, we can read Prydwen Internal Mail. We find 4 entries, and the first from Arthur Maxon. As we undertake our urgent mission in the Commonwealth, I feel that the mental well-being of the crew should remain a top priority for your department. I'm well aware that being sequestered aboard this vessel can take its toll. If you observe any issues relating to the stresses that these lengthy missions can cause, I want you to treat it as though a legitimate illness is being reported. If we have any hope of defeating the Institute, we cannot afford to lose even a single soldier to mental instability. I mean, mental illness is a legitimate illness. Funny that Arthur Maxon felt as though he had to clarify to Cade that it should be treated as such. In the next one, from Maxon, I've received your concerns about Proctor Ingram's condition, but I can assure you that she is more than capable of handling herself. She's already proven to be an extremely valuable member of this crew, and I will not place her on mandatory leave until you've proven to me that she's physically incapable of handling her duties. What? Twice now we've found notifications from Cade, first to Maxon, then to Kells, insisting that Ingram was fit for active duty, that she could be deployed in the field. But now we learn that Cade himself sent Maxon concerns that Ingram was not fit for duty? Seems like we're getting conflicting information here. And the next one from Tegan, our last sweep and retrieve patrol came back with some medical supplies. If you have some extra time, head down to the cage and let me know what you want. If there's anything you don't need, I'll use it for trading. We're running a bit low on ammunition supplies, and these medical supplies are as good as caps with the locals. And in the final one, from Captain Kells. I finished reading your medical report on Night Sergeant Merrick. The fact that he managed to survive long enough to reach the Prydwen and deliver his report is absolutely incredible. The sacrifice that he made for the sake of the mission is a testament to his dedication and loyalty. We will be holding a memorial service on the ship's forecastle at the sunset this evening. I sincerely hope you'll be able to attend. That was the guy who got blown up by a mini-nuke. Backing out of the terminal, we can leave his office and head to the galley. Here we find a number of soldiers milling about, relaxing, and eating food. We can talk to the Brotherhood mess officer.
Hopefully the next recovery team will bring back some decent supplies. Been having to get real creative lately.
But he actually doesn't operate as a food vendor. We can't buy anything from him. If we could, I'm sure most of what he could provide would be 200-year-old boxes of pre-war American food. This is very different from the kind of food you could find from today's sponsor, Factor. I'm proud that Factor is a repeat sponsor of this channel because I've used their product for years and am consistently impressed by the results. Not only are all of the ingredients completely fresh, but they are packaged in appropriate portion sizes. That's what I like most about them. I know exactly what I'm eating and how many calories I'm eating. Factor is a key tool I use to manage my caloric intake. Factor takes the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success. Skip the grocery stores, prep work, and cooking fatigue. Instead, get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. With over 35 meals to choose from per week, including options like keto, calorie smart, vegan plus veggie, and more. Factor meals eliminate the hassle of prepping, cooking, or cleanup. Simply heat and savor the good stuff. Skip the overpriced takeout trap. Factor is cheaper and way more delicious. Get chef-crafted, restaurant-quality meals delivered right to your door. They're ready to heat in just 2 minutes, which means more time for you. Factor has everything I need for the constantly evolving requirements of my meal planning. From complete meals, to shakes, to drinks, to snacks. The variety of options available make it easy for me to stick to my goals. Head to Factor75.com or click the link below and use code Oxhorn50 to get 50% off your first Factor box and 20% off your next month of orders. That's code Oxhorn50 at Factor75.com to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month of orders. The Brotherhood could only dream about eating so well, which of course is why they feel compelled to requisition rations from local farmers. Standing in the galley, we find one of the many Brotherhood squires aboard the Prydwen.
Squire.
I wish they made power armor in my size. Maybe I'll ask Proctor Ingram if she can make some for me.
In some of his flavor dialogue, Paladin Dance says that having children aboard the Prydwen has always made him uncomfortable, despite this edict coming from Arthur Maxon himself. We'll meet more squires a bit later. Continuing north, we arrive at the Power Armor Workshop. It's here where we were gifted our full suit of Knight Power Armor. And in a corner on a desk, next to a duffel bag, we find Proctor Ingram's terminal. Inside, we find 2 options. In the first, work orders. We find 6 of them. In the first, type repair status completed. Completed by Ingram, item internal air conditioning unit. Air conditioning unit had burned out its condensing coil from overuse. Need to remind the soldiers that they can't constantly run the damn thing 24 hours a day. Copper condensing coils are tough to replace, so had to make do with a homemade version. Unit should last a while longer with moderate use. In the next one, type repair status completed. Completed by Ingram, item Mr. Handy cultivation unit. We haven't met these yet. They're on the top floor. We'll meet them in a bit. Got called down to lab area, and their Mr. Handy was trying to cut through everything in sight. Was almost ready to get some soldiers to shoot the thing before it hurt someone, but it tried to cut through the bulkhead and burned up its motor. Pulled the logic unit, and it looks like an old factory defect on the cultivation models. I've blown out the firmware and rewrote the instruction set to fix the issue, replace the motor, and put the unit back into service. In the next one, type install status complete. Completed by Ingram, item ventilation filter system. Installed a ventilation system over the rear laboratory space to help Naraya vent the stench of her mole rats to the exterior of the ship. Had to cut a few holes in the inner and outer plating, but triple welded everything to make sure it all stays tacked down. System is on a timer, so it shouldn't draw too much power from the ship's reserves. Was happy to help, since I could smell her rats all the way down here. We haven't met Naraya yet either. She's also upstairs. We'll meet her in a bit. In the next one, type repair status completed. Completed by Ingram, type vertibird gunship Vorpal. Vorpal threw a rotor on its last landing, so I hitched a ride with Spatha and headed out to the crash site. Pilot did a hell of a job bringing his bird down in one piece. All I had to do was recover the rotor and set it back in place. There's some minor plating damage on the starboard thruster, but I'll hammer it down when Vorpal gets back to the airport. Was nice to get away from the Prydwen for once. Hopefully I can convince Kells to let me head out with some future patrols. And in the next one, repair completed by Bainbridge. Item sewage lines. I don't know what the heck the mess hall is serving, but the sewage lines were completely clogged. It was so disgusting. I had to borrow one of my buddy's power armor helmets to keep the smell from making me puke. I think I'd rather scrape rust off the exterior hull plating next time. And despite this, we don't actually find any toilets aboard the Prydwen. And in the final one, type install status completed by Ingram item ground level gantry. Finally got the gantry done. I hope that I've engineered it to properly handle Liberty Prime's weight. I've also run a bunch of power shunts from the Prydwen's engines right down to a bunch of transformers under the control platform. I'll wire all of it into the system so we can change over from the ship's power to the big guy's internal power at the flick of a switch. Now, all we need is a miracle to get Liberty Prime back on his feet. Designed by Quinlan, built and engineered by Ingram. That's Prime's gantry. Backing out, we can now explore Prydwen internal mail. And here we find 4 entries. In the first, from Maxon to Proctor Ingram. After having a long discussion with both Lancer Captain Kells and Knight Captain Cade, I've decided to deny your request for field service. While I understand that you've modified your power armor frame to accommodate your injury, and Cade has personally given it his seal of approval, I don't feel it's worth risking your life. You of all people should appreciate that machines can break down. In your particular case, if your frame fails while you're in the field, it could place you and anyone with you in extreme danger. Please don't take this personally, Ingram. I can't afford to lose you. My decision is final. I'm sorry. I gotta say, Arthur Maxon showed a lot of humanity in this entry. He really empathized with Proctor Ingram here. You can tell that he weighed this decision heavily. He talked with Cade, he talked with Kells before making his decision, he weighed the pros and cons, and he was sad that he had to disappoint her, but he did what he thought was best for the Brotherhood. That's good leadership. It's admirable that he was so thoughtful in this email. Though I question his reasoning, because his reasoning hinges on the fact that machines break down. He's referring to her modified power armor frame, and yet every knight and paladin in the Brotherhood wears power armor. Using his same argument, what if a paladin's power armor breaks down in the heat of battle? That would put not only the soldier, but his squad in jeopardy. They already take that risk. But perhaps Arthur is saying here that Ingram herself, as an engineer, is just far too valuable to risk even in a suit of power armor. In the next one, from Cade, I'm guessing you've already read that Maxon is denying your fieldwork request. I did everything I could to talk him out of it, but he just wasn't convinced. If there's anything you need, even if you just want to talk about it, my door's always open. I hate to bring this up now, but you really need to head down here and let me tweak your leg hydraulics. Last time you were here, you complained that the shock absorbers weren't doing their job, dampening your impacts from walking. Well, I was able to tweak some numbers, and I'd like to look them over with you. After all, you're the expert when it comes to mechanical engineering. So there, now you have 2 excuses to visit me in the sickbay. I hope to see you in here soon. Well, it's true, Cade really did go to bat for Ingram, despite having personal misgivings about her health, as we learned from his terminal. Sounds like Cade is a really good friend to Proctor Ingram. And the next one, from Tegan. I got a little surprise for you. Remember how you told me about those sweets you loved so much? You know, the ones that look like little colored discs? Well, Quinlan's last sweep and retrieve patrol just came in, and they found a whole roll of them. If that doesn't put a smile on your face, I don't know what will. Now, how about heading over to my quarters this evening and we can split it together? Don't worry, I'll be a complete gentleman. I just hate seeing you storm all over the repair bay with that damn scowl on your face, and I think this'll cheer you up. Can we trust that Tegan isn't trying to hit on Ingram here? Maybe we can give him the benefit of the doubt. If this is genuine, then he's being very sweet towards her. He knows she's upset, and he found her favorite candy to try and cheer her up. And the last one, from Maxon. To Proctor Ingram. Now that Captain Kells has transferred all of your materials down to the surface and the gantry construction has started, I think it's time we had a talk about the timeline of your new project. I'd like you to head up to the command deck as soon as possible so we can discuss the details. We have far too many resources tied up in this operation to allow anything to slip through the cracks. We have a war to win, Proctor, and I strongly believe that this ambitious project of yours will be our rallying cry. We have to remember that Arthur Maxson was a child when Liberty Prime was set loose on the Capital Wasteland. He may not have ever even seen Liberty Prime walk because he was stuck in the Citadel at the time. So Liberty Prime as a Brotherhood weapon is a weapon of legend in his mind. No wonder he thinks that it could be the Brotherhood's rallying cry here. Continuing north to the end of the ship on this level, we turn a corner to find an armor workbench, a couple of containers, and a master-locked terminal. We'll explore that in just a minute. On the opposite wall is a weapons workbench and a staircase leading down. Here we find Proctor Tegan's cage. We met him in episode 13, but now it's time to learn if he has anything new to say.
What can I get for you today?
Have anything unusual?
I have some special mods I've been working on. Sort of a hobby I have to pass the time. Real high-powered stuff. Slap a few of them onto your weapons, and I am pretty sure they'll put a smile on your face.
Set me up.
Sure, I've got something that'll put a smile on your face.
Proctor Tegan has a nice supply of weapons. Nothing terribly interesting, though uniquely he does have vertibird signal grenades. We actually got some of these for free after joining the Brotherhood in previous episodes. They work almost identically to the vertibird signal grenades that we got with the Railroad, but we'll go over them again a bit later. Incidentally, the skin of the model has the words "Piece of Flair" inscribed on the side. I think that's an Office Space reference. We should take one of these to Tchotchke's. There are some unique pieces of armor on his inventory. The Commando chest piece, a legendary piece of combat armor that increases action point refresh speed. There's also the Commando helmet, another legendary piece of combat armor that grants us a 10% reduction in action point cost in VATS. He's one of the few merchants in the game that sells a power armor frame. He sells junk, and oddly enough, despite what he said earlier, he only sells one mod. His mod inventory changes every 3 days or so. It's not a very good selection at all, but at least we have a different selection from time to time. Next, we can ask him about any work he has for us.
Let's hear a bit more about that extra work you mentioned.
Hard to resist the lure of extra caps. The food stores don't replenish themselves, so I need legs on the ground to hit up farms in the area. We'll be requisitioning a portion of their harvest, and I need that food crated and ready to go for when I send out a collection team. Your mission will be to ensure full cooperation of the civilian farmers, by any means necessary.
Any means necessary? You're giving me carte blanche on this.
You said it. Like they say, if you aren't with us, you're against us. Think you can handle that?
Maybe later.
Can't blame a guy for trying. If you decide you're interested, I'll be here. This cage ain't letting me out anytime soon.
Not interested.
Now that's a real shame. Offer's still here if you change your mind.
I'm in.
Good. I'll mark the farm on your map. Remember, guaranteed cooperation.
With that, we start the Radiant quest, Feeding the Troops. And then the game randomly selects a Minutemen settlement for us, whether or not we've claimed that settlement for the Minutemen. In this instance, we need to secure crops from Country Crossing. The terminal just outside is locked with a master lock. I couldn't hack this, but if we could, inside we only find an option to open the security door leading to his cage. Entering the cage does not turn Tegan hostile. However, everything back here is set to owned. If we take any of this, we really piss him off, which is a shame because there's tons of great stuff back here. Not only is there an end-of-dungeon steamer trunk and ammo canisters filled with ammunition, but there's a Gauss rifle, plenty of mines, a Fat Man, and even an X-01 power armor helmet. Since all of these items are statically placed, we could potentially walk away with mid to late game gear as soon as we get master hacking. This quest is easy, if unsavory. Heading to Country Crossing, we'll find a settler or two there, and we have to talk with one of them to continue with the quest.
Why do I get the impression I don't want to hear what you have to say?
What would you take for your crops?
Never thought about that. I can't see parting with our crops for less than 1,000 caps.
No deal.
Then I guess we're done talking.
We could pay the 1,000 caps.
Deal.
When we harvest, it's all yours.
And that's really the most honorable way to go about this. But 1,000 caps is a pretty steep price. So, alternatively, we could try to pass an orange charisma check to talk him down to 500 caps, and if we fail...
How about 500 caps?
No deal.
But if we succeed...
Not the best deal I ever made, but okay. Crops will be ready after harvest.
And at least this way, we complete the quest without strong-arming these poor, starving settlers. Alternatively, we have two other options, both of which are orange charisma checks. We could intimidate them to give us the crops, and if we fail...
The Brotherhood of Steel demands your tribute, citizen. You will hand over a portion of your crops to the Brotherhood.
Tribute my ass. We don't owe you anything, so get off my land.
But if we succeed...
You'll get what you want, just please, don't hurt us.
And Paladin Dance likes this method. Or, if we don't have the stomach to intimidate him, we could beg him to donate. But if we fail...
The Brotherhood needs your help to protect the Commonwealth. Donate a portion of your crops to the Brotherhood, and it will not be forgotten.
I'm sorry, but we already lost all our stores to raiders. If we gave up our next harvest, we'll starve.
But if we succeed...
We don't want any trouble. You will get your donation.
In this instance, Dance likes both options. But even though this sounds like one of the better options, because we're asking him to donate, it still clearly comes across as not very optional. You'll get your quote-unquote donation, the settler says, as we walk away. Clearly in his mind, he doesn't think he's doing it willingly. No matter how we choose to resolve this quest, to complete it, we head right back to Proctor Tegan.
Look who's back. I take it everything went without a hitch.
Which mission?
The one and only mission to secure food supplies for the Brotherhood. So, were you convincing enough?
Which mission?
The one where you convinced the farmers to donate crops to our cause. Hopefully that's familiar and you have some good news for me.
Skip the banter, old man.
You're lucky this gauge is here, and I'm feeling generous. Here are those caps I promised you. Let me know when you feel like paying another farm a visit.
Yes, sir. The crops will be available when harvested.
You sure get the job done, don't you? Here, your caps, just as we agreed. If you got the time, I got a few more farms for you to hit. Those farmers don't know how good they have it. They aren't risking their lives for the greater good.
And with that, we can rinse and repeat. Though, many years ago when I did my first Brotherhood playthrough, I recall that I had to wait at least 3 days before Tegan would offer the quest to me again. But here he offers it immediately, and I'm not sure why. With that, we finish exploring the mid-deck and we can take a staircase up to the top deck. Here we find Scribe Naraya and her experiments.
There. That should hold.
Thank you, sister.
You know, we wouldn't have to worry about them getting out if they weren't on the ship.
Your concerns are noted, Scribe. Give Proctor Ingram my thanks for letting me borrow you.
We see the mole rats in a cage that are apparently part of her experiment. We read about these when we read Proctor Ingram's terminal. She had to install an exhaust fan to vent the stench from these mole rats. Nearby we find some synth skeletons, or wreckages, maybe? And we see that the units they've apprehended are Gen 1 synths. They haven't even found any Gen 2 synths, let alone Gen 3 synths. In the middle of the room is a super mutant. I'm sure they're learning a lot here. And near to the crops is a Brotherhood Mr. Gutsy.
Technology's in good hands with the Brotherhood. I know. The ends justify the means when it comes to freeing the Commonwealth.
The haywire Mr. Farmer that we read about on Proctor Ingram's terminal. In one of the planters is an experimental plant. This is a consumable item. It heals 10 to 15 hit points depending on our perks, but doses us with 5 rads. It's also an Easter egg. It looks a lot like Nirnroot, an alchemical ingredient from the Elder Scrolls series. It appears in Oblivion, Skyrim, and Elder Scrolls Online. Near to the experimental plant is a botany terminal. We find 2 entries in the first one, experimental hybrid log. Inside we find 6 entries in the first, experiment NRT001 log A010. This also is a reference to Nirnroot, NRT, Nirnroot. Proctor Quinlan's teams continue to bring in samples of the local flora. They seem fairly corrupted by radiation, but some of them have promising properties, so we'll continue to study them. Our ultimate goal is to cultivate enough hybrids to increase our heterotic yield. If we can do that, we may be able to cultivate the new species and create viable alternatives to our dependency on man-made resources. In the next one, Log 15, had a bit of an unexpected find today. One of our field scribes brought a small root he found at the mouth of a river. Normally I wouldn't hold high hopes for such a small specimen, but the root is displaying chemical properties I've never seen before. I'm not sure anything will come of it, but it's certainly worth experimenting on. In the next, Entry 17. My new experimental root is doing surprisingly well. I've managed to graft pieces of it onto some hardier stock, and we've yielded a strong, leafy plant with thick roots. While I'm uncertain of future applications for my new hybrid, I did a chemical test and it seems safe to ingest. On a whim, I boiled the plant in some water and discovered that it makes an oddly good tea. And the next, Entry 22. When I entered the botany area this morning, I couldn't believe my eyes. My experimental root has started glowing. After running a battery of tests, I'm 100% certain that this isn't radiation, but some sort of bioluminescence. I intend to continue my tests to see what else we can get out of this little wonder. One of my fellow scribes suggested I probably shouldn't drink tea made from the leaves anymore, but it's really great tea, and I still don't see the harm. This is another reference to Nirnroot, because in Elder Scrolls, Nirnroot glows a bluish-white at night. In the next one, Entry 26, after some debate, I've decided to name my discovery Glowleaf. Ingesting the plant must have restorative properties, because I feel healthier than ever. A few of the scribes on the laboratory team think I'm getting addicted to it, but what the hell do they know? Anyone who tells me I can't have my cup of Glowleaf tea can stuff it. And in the last one, Entry 33, experiment terminated. Senior botany scribe has been reassigned. So this wasn't Scribe Nariah, this was some senior botany scribe. Backing out, we can move down to Commonwealth Plant Database. And here we find entries on all of the plants we're familiar with. In the first, bloodleaf. Short, broad-leafed red flower with long roots, found near water sources. Leaves are edible, appears to have restorative properties, but is usually irradiated, so continued consumption not recommended. In the next one, carrot flower. Long-stemmed specimen with delicate white flowers, appears edible, may be related to the mutated carrots grown on farms. Uncertain of its properties, so recommend caution. In the next, hub flower. Large hanging purple flowers. Bitter, but appears to have some restorative benefits. We'll continue to investigate. And the next one, Tato. According to some old botany texts we found, this appears to be a combination of a now extinct plant called a potato and another extinct plant called a tomato. The outside looks like a tomato, but the inside is brown. Tastes as absolutely disgusting as it looks, but will keep you from starving. And now we learn that both the potato and the tomato are extinct in the Fallout universe, except for cherry tomatoes, apparently.
Well, the tomatoes.
In the last one, razor grain. This species appears to be quite promising. It's a toothy grain that we may be able to grind in order to replace wheat, which is untenable in the wasteland. We're uncertain how to increase crop yields, which are very unpredictable. We'll continue to study. Backing out of the terminal, we can talk to Scribe Nariah.
Feel free to have a look at the specimens, but please don't touch anything. I refuse to be held responsible if you are injured.
Are all these creatures yours?
Well, they're an important part of my research, if that's what you mean.
Don't worry. I won't even go near them.
Good. Tampering with the specimens could taint the results and set my research back by months.
This place smells horrible.
It does? I've spent so long researching these specimens, I guess I don't even notice it anymore.
Quite a collection you've got here.
Well, thank you. Most people don't appreciate the important work that I'm trying to do here. I'm on the cusp of discovering how these creatures' bodies have adapted to the radiation that's infiltrated their habitats. If I can crack the code, I can equip our troops with a protective compound far superior to Rad-X.
What do you mean, crack the code?
The genetic code. The DNA sequences that are in every living thing.
Sounds complicated.
Actually, it's rather simple.
That's impossible.
Not at all. You just need to have an open mind.
That's amazing.
Well, it's only a theory so far. You see, the ionizing radiation left behind by the Great War kills because it damages most living things on a cellular level. However, after several generations, these creatures' bodies have adapted by altering their genetic makeup to prevent cellular disruption. I believe I've discovered how I can replicate that genetic restructuring rapidly. Instead of decades, I can do it in moments. For a short period of time, anyway.
Why alter it for a short period of time? Why not do it permanently?
Attempting to alter the genetic code permanently? That's too close to what happened with FEV and Spawn, the super mutant. I'm not willing to take a chance like that.
This sounds unethical. You're changing the building blocks of life.
I agree that I might be skirting the line between what's ethical and what isn't, but in order to protect our troops, I'm willing to take that risk.
Altering someone's genetic code sounds dangerous.
Absolutely. That's why I'm taking precautions and not altering the genetic code permanently.
I'm sold. If you're looking for someone to help, you can sign me up.
I appreciate the offer, but unfortunately, I've hit a stumbling block. The specimens I've already captured can only produce so much blood and genetic material. If I try and harvest too much, they'll die. What I need are more samples of blood from the creatures roaming the Commonwealth.
Will I get some of that new compound you're developing?
If I make a breakthrough, you'll be the first person I give it to. After I've tested it on myself, of course.
Didn't plan on getting killed for science anytime soon.
You don't have to do anything out of the ordinary.
I'll get whatever you need. If I'm getting paid.
That shouldn't be a problem. I'm authorized to pay you for any research materials you recover.
No problem. I'd be glad to help.
I appreciate your confidence in my abilities, brother. I've modified your Pip-Boy to scan the corpse of any freshly killed creature that has the proper type of blood in its body. All you have to do is pick up any viable sample and bring it back to me. Hey, I really appreciate you doing this for me. It's nice to know I'm not the only person in the Brotherhood with an open mind.
With that, we start a collection quest similar to the technical documents one that we're already doing for Proctor Quinlan. Now when we kill enemies, in particular ghouls and super mutants, also some wasteland creatures, we can sometimes loot viable blood samples off of their inventory. Once we loot a viable blood sample, we can come back to Scribe Naraya and turn it in.
Have you collected any blood samples, Knight?
That depends. Are you still paying for them?
Absolutely. I received the approval from Proctor Quinlan himself. Did you have any samples for me?
Will every creature yield viable blood samples?
Unfortunately, no. Nature's stubborn, and unless I get the proper specimen, I can't use it to make my compound. That's why I needed to modify your Pip-Boy. It'll let you know if the creature has viable blood in its body. Have you had any luck finding samples yet?
No, sorry.
Keep trying. There's plenty out there.
Yes, here you go.
I never thought I'd be so happy to see tiny vials of blood. Thank you. Here's some caps for the trouble. I really appreciate you searching for the blood samples. As soon as I make a breakthrough, I'll let you know.
She pays us 50 caps for each viable blood sample, which is actually really good money. Clearing one ghoul den can cause us to walk away with 10, 12, or more of these suckers, making us a pretty penny in the process. After collecting between 20 and 25 or so of these viable blood samples, Scribe Naraya will have a breakthrough.
Excuse me, Scribe Naraya.
I've done it, Knight. I've created the compound.
So it works?
I tested it myself. It's much more potent than Rad-X, and it doesn't appear to have any ill side effects.
And here I thought you were holding out on me.
Now, why would I do something like that? After all, this was only possible because of you.
Well, it's about time.
There were several setbacks along the way, but I finally did it.
Congratulations, Naraya.
Well, it would have been impossible without your help. I've decided to call it the X-111 compound. I thought it was fitting. Here, I already made you some samples to take with you. If you want me to continue synthesizing the compound, I'm going to need more blood samples. Just keep bringing them to me and I'll do the rest.
She calls it the X-111 compound, of course, because we're from Vault 111, and we helped her with her research. The X-111 compound heals between 600 and 700 radiation, depending on our perks. Compare that to Radaway, which heals between 200 and 300 radiation, depending on our perks. So it's over twice as good as Radaway. But she only gives us 6 of them. However, this quest is repeatable.
Scribe Naraya,
Have you collected any blood samples, Knight?
have you synthesized any more of the X-111 compound?
Not yet. I still need a few more blood samples before I can create another batch. Remember, keep bringing me samples, and I'll keep making you the compound.
To get more X-111, we need to bring her 20 or so more viable blood samples. Once we do, she has a new batch for us.
Have you synthesized any more of the X-111 compound?
You're in luck. I just finished synthesizing some earlier today. Remember, keep bringing me blood samples, and I'll keep making the compound.
It's more difficult to get than Radaway, but if we kill a lot of ghouls and super mutants, like a good Brotherhood soldier should, we should be able to get a steady supply of the stuff from Scribe Naraya. Next, we can read Scribe Naraya's terminal. Inside, we find 2 options. In the first, personal notes, we find 4 entries in the first. As we've been traveling towards the Commonwealth, I've been preparing my makeshift laboratory in the rear cargo hold of the Prydwen. When we arrive, Quinlan says he'll be sending out several patrols with the express purpose of collecting viable field specimens. My job is to oversee the dissection and study of anything the patrols bring aboard. I've always agreed with the notion that the quickest way to learn your enemy's weakness is by examining them from the inside out. I hope I don't have to wait too terribly long to put that notion to the test. In the next one, Quinlan's collection teams have already brought super mutant and synth specimens aboard. I've collected a fair bit of data from their remains, but have yet to discover anything that will give our soldiers an advantage in the field. As far as the super mutant specimens go, they are quite different from the strains present in the Capital Wasteland, so most of our anatomical records require updates, which takes time. This, of course, is because the super mutants in the Commonwealth were created by the Institute using a very different strain of FEV than the strain found in Vault 87, which produced the super mutants in the Capital Wasteland. And the synth specimens, they're a complete mystery. The models we've recovered are almost entirely mechanized, so I've been coordinating with Proctor Ingram since she's our resident robotics expert. I suppose it's only a matter of time before I have some answers. In the meantime, I'm going to begin working on a special project of my own design. In the next one, I've brought several mole rat specimens aboard for my special project. I'm convinced that the key to unlocking improved radiation resistance is in tenacious little creatures like these. If they've learned to adapt to the radiation blanketing the Commonwealth, with a little help, we can too. I know most of the crew thinks I'm crazy, but I'm certain that I'm on the right track. I just need as many viable blood samples as possible to make my theory a reality, which is difficult right now since Maxon has most of our teams sweeping for technology. I'll see what I can do with my mole rat specimens, but I'm not sure it'll be enough. In the next one, I've run into a stroke of luck today. One of the new recruits has agreed to do a little field research for me and bring back as many viable blood samples as they could find. I was even more fortunate that they possessed a Pip-Boy I could modify to extract the blood from whatever creatures they killed during their missions. Now all I have to do is wait until our new recruit returns and my special project can continue in earnest. Backing out, we can move on to Prydwen internal mail. And here we find 4 options. And the first from Quinlan. While I'm pleased that you're settling into your new role as our medical examiner, I'm a bit dismayed that your attention appears to be focused on your own personal projects. The dissection and examination of the super mutant and synth corpses need to be your top priority. Don't make me regret placing you in charge of that laboratory, Naraya. I have plenty of other scribes waiting in line who are just itching for you to fail. Yikes. Quite the motivator, this Proctor Quinlan. In the next one from Knight Rees. I'm sending the mole rats that you asked for on the next vertibird flight from the police station. I have no idea what you want them for. Those things bite, and they crap all over the place. It was a pain in the ass to collect them alive, so you better have that case of whiskey you promised ready for the return flight after the pilot drops them off. As far as getting a Brahmin up there, you can forget it. I talked to the pilot, and he refuses to shove one of those disgusting things into his ship. So these mole rats came from the Cambridge police station. In the next one, from Captain Kells. I've been informed by several members of the crew that you're keeping several mole rat specimens in the laboratory area of the ship. While I can appreciate their value as biological specimens, I'm sure you understand that these creatures are filthy and emit an unpleasant odor in enclosed spaces such as our hull. I'll permit you to keep them if you can assure me that you'll have Proctor Ingram devise some type of ventilation system to help mitigate the smell. Try to remember that you're sharing a space where people have to eat and sleep, Scribe. I expect a full report by the end of the week. Thankfully, she did reach out to Proctor Ingram, and the exhaust vent was complete. In the last one, from Quinlan, I'm sending back a sample of DNA that's been encrypted. I want you to deconstruct the code and then compare it to our personnel files immediately. I'll send along the password to my database, which contains samples of every registered soldier's DNA for comparison. This is absolutely top priority, and I want you to perform the work in isolation. Please do not share your findings with anyone but myself, Lancer Captain Kells, or Elder Maxon. You have 24 hours to complete your findings, Naraya. Don't let me down. This entry seems to coincide with the one that we found on Proctor Quinlan's terminal. She completed the task, and her results caused Quinlan to have questions about Paladin Dance. I wonder what this encrypted DNA is all about. Continuing south, we find a Brotherhood soldier giving a pep talk to young squires.
Never forget, you are the eyes and the ears of the Brotherhood. If you see or hear anything suspicious, it is your duty to report it immediately. We live in enemy territory now. Your vigilance could mean the difference between life and death. Understood?
Yes, sir! Yes, sir!
Good. Ad Victoriam, squires.
Ad Victoriam!
Dismissed.
After passing through some storage canisters, we arrive at the Prydwen barracks.
Proctor Ingram said she needed this suit tested yesterday.
Yeah, I get it. Just, what if I miss?
Don't.
Okay, sure. Firing. Everything holding together?
Trust me, you'd know.
Good. Firing.
All right. Everything looks nominal. And you didn't scuttle the ship. Thanks, Initiate.
Sure. Anytime.
This is clearly too small to accommodate every soldier on the ship. Perhaps most of them sleep down at the airport, maybe? But we do find a few beds here. The footlockers are not set to owned, so we can loot them. Some of the footlockers are locked with an expert lock. And notice that these locked footlockers don't have a name. We don't know who owns them at this moment. Between these two beds is a desk with an outgoing mail terminal on top of it. Inside, we find 5 entries. In the first, entry 9, Karen, I really miss you, baby. I hope you're safe out there. Remember to keep the doors locked at night and the shotgun I gave you loaded at all times. Don't trust anyone unless you know them, and even then, keep an eye on everything they do. I don't know how long this tour will last, but I promise to come back safe. Love you. In the next one, entry 11. Opened with moving your king's pawn 2 spaces, eh? Smart move. Try to control the center of the board and free up the queen and one of your bishops. I bet you think I'm going to mirror your move, but guess what? I'm going to move my queen's pawn 2 spaces, so I can teach you a little something called the French defense. Don't worry, you'll get the hang of this game. Even after the apocalypse, people are playing chess over the internet. Kinda. In the next one, entry 15. Hey Mom, they're letting me send out a message before we initiate radio silence. I'm working with a pretty decent officer, a guy named Kells. He treats us well, as long as we do what we're told. Working with the Brotherhood has been an amazing experience so far. It's nice to be finally making a difference in this messed up world. Gotta go now, Mom. Say hi to Daniel for me. In the next one, entry 20. Chalk up 2 more dead ferals. That makes a total of 17 since I've been out here. You wouldn't believe how easy they go down when you hit them with a laser rifle. It slices right through the ugly things like butter. When I get back from this tour, I'm gonna take you feral hunting. Trust me, you'll love it. For now, you'll just have to stick to hunting the local mole rats with your zip gun. And in the final one, entry 26. I hope this message gets to the right person. My name is Knight Bota, and I served with your son, Initiate Arlen. I'm sorry to inform you that Arlen was shot and killed during one of our field training operations. I wanted you to know that he died a brave death, saving the life of 3 other initiates in the process. There's nothing I can say that'll soften the blow of losing a child, but I wanted you to know that it was an honor to fight at Arlen's side. You should be proud of the sacrifice he made for the sake of his country. I've sent his personal belongings back to the Citadel. You have my deepest condolences for your loss. Backing out of the terminal, we can move to the opposite side of the barracks. Here we find more footlockers, more beds, and a holotape on a table, personal log 142.
Personal log entry 142. I can sum up living on the Prydwen in 4 words. I miss field assignments. Don't get me wrong, the research we're doing is exciting stuff, but life on this ship is a nightmare. I'm trapped in this metal tube 18 hours a day. I still can't decide who smells worse, the soldiers or the mole rats. And what passes for conversation among the grunts makes mutants seem scholarly. I'm gonna speak to Proctor Quinlan. Field scribes cannot have it this bad.
That was Scribe Nasseri. I wish we could meet her. The middle bed in this row is actually our bed. By looting the storage container, we complete a miscellaneous quest to open our personal storage container. Inside, we found a fusion core and some other loot, and we can sleep in this bed. Continuing north, we find another barracks, and we overhear a conversation.
Do you know what a 10-pound cockroach can do to a buoyancy regulator?
I can guess.
Don't get smart. You want to see the Brotherhood's greatest warship brought down by bugs?
All right. Just don't tell Ingram, okay?
Fine. But there's a reason food's not allowed near the instrumentation.
Here we find much of the same. Footlockers, metal boxes, beds, and on one cabinet, we find a holotape. Maxon was right.
You know, before getting shipped to the Commonwealth, I thought Elder Lyons still had some good points. The Brotherhood in the Capital Wasteland, they were about helping. But this assignment, it's opened my eyes. On the flight here, we passed city after city, buildings taller than I've ever seen, some that nearly clipped the Prydwen. And who uses them now? Mutants. Freaks. Seeing all that destruction, tens of millions dead, brought on by technology run amok, it made it so clear. Elder Maxon is right. The wasteland needs to be cleansed, and we're the ones to do it.
We pass by a weapons workbench, we loot a few more containers, there's an armor workbench nearby, and on a barrel next to one of the beds, we find another holotape, your new assignment.
While I appreciate your attempts at diligence, Initiate, the sheer volume of complaints you have filed implicating your brothers and sisters as synth agents has done irreparable harm to ship morale, as well as your own credibility. Proctor Ingram, Paladin Dance, Elder Maxon. I understand the stress of our mission is great, and for that reason I'm inclined to show leniency for the damage you've done. Your reassignment will be effective immediately. Welcome to Recon, Initiate. Do us proud.
Under fire.
The Dance was talking over the holotape we were listening to right there, but at that moment he said that throwaway line I mentioned a moment ago, where he actually disapproved with Maxon's decision of having child squires aboard the Prydwen. Nearby we find a terminal on a desk, the crew's terminal. Inside we find 5 announcements, and the first one, all recovered technology must be presented immediately to Proctor Quinlan for evaluation. Anyone found in possession of undocumented technologies will be subject to inquiry and punishment. And the next one, announcement 2. Scribe Naraya's mole rat subjects are not pets. They are crucial military resources. As such, they are not to be fed by any personnel save Scribe Naraya and her team. Any violation of this policy will result in severe disciplinary action. In announcement 3, Due to increased raider activity, all leave requests to off-base sites have been temporarily suspended. Affected parties will have their leave compensated at the next available opportunity. In announcement number 4, this is a notice to all personnel. Please think of your brothers and sisters down below. Thoroughly secure all gear while on the flight deck. And in the last one, any personnel who have not completed their annual medical evaluation should report to Night Captain Cade immediately to schedule an examination. In the furthest part of this floor, we find more barracks, which must be for the kids, because here we find bottles of Nuka-Cola and sugar bombs strewn all over the place, as well as board games. Taking the stairs up to the final and top floor brings us to a part of the Prydwen that we explored fully when we came here to destroy the Prydwen on behalf of the railroad. There's not much here. It's a catwalk that passes through the giant hydrogen-filled bladders. At the southernmost end of this catwalk is a door that leads to the Prydwen forecastle. Here we find a viewing platform overlooking the Commonwealth below. It's a beautiful view, but there's not much out here save one advanced locked sharpshooter storage. If we could pick it, inside we find a laser sniper rifle. I guess someone likes to come out here at times and pick off super mutants from the city below. Back inside, we can explore the pathway between the bladders, and we don't find much. Interestingly, the access points that we used to destroy these bladders during the railroad quest are not here. At the very end, we find some children's chalk drawings and some toys. Another grim reminder that in addition to being a military vehicle, there are children living aboard the Prydwen. With that, we fully explore the flight deck, and we can head back downstairs to the ladder to explore the command deck. We passed through here briefly on our way to hear Elder Maxon's address in an earlier episode, but taking the staircase all the way down to the command deck, we find Captain Kells and the pilots flying the Prydwen. After looting a few containers hiding behind the stairs, we can talk to Lancer Captain Kells.
Now that you've had a chance to roam the Prydwen, what do you think, Knight?
Where did the Prydwen get her name?
Elder Maxon said he took the name from a work of historical fiction. Something about a man who was destined to become a king, and his journey to liberate his people from tyranny and oppression. Seems fitting for such a remarkable ship, wouldn't you say?
Needless to say, he's talking about Arthurian legend here. As I previously covered in one of my earlier videos about the Fallout show, when at the time we were told the airship in that program was called the Caswanon, Prydwen was the name of King Arthur's ship in an early Welsh poem titled The Spoils of Onwin.
Cute boat.
Referring to this vessel as a boat is an insult to her heritage.
Frankly, I'm amazed it flies.
I'm disappointed how callously you're judging her.
She's very impressive.
Yes. Quite a feat of engineering, isn't she? It took the Brotherhood's sharpest minds over 2 years to design and more than twice that to build.
Where was the Prydwen constructed?
She was constructed at Adams Air Force Base, just outside of Washington, D.C. There was a vast amount of scrap metal and salvageable components there after we defeated the Enclave.
That's a long time.
Constructing the Prydwen required a vast amount of resources, far more than the Brotherhood possessed when we began. We spent the first 2 years alone gathering the parts. The rest was spent assembling. It was worth the effort.
All that time, and this is the best they could come up with?
She may not be beautiful, but she's safe, reliable, and heavily armored enough to keep the riffraff from bringing her down.
Time well spent, I'd say.
Indeed. With the Prydwen in our arsenal, we can mobilize our entire division, sending her anywhere that Elder Maxon wishes her to go. Her presence in the Commonwealth ensures that our mission to defeat the Institute will end in victory.
The vast amounts of scrap metal and salvageable components that he refers to here came from the ruins of the mobile base crawler, which the Lone Wanderer and the Brotherhood of Steel destroyed at the Adams Air Force Base. After the destruction of the Enclave, the Brotherhood moved in, occupied the base, and used all of this leftover scrap to construct the Prydwen.
Did the Brotherhood ever build other airships?
There were less advanced versions of the ship built on the West Coast a long time ago. Historical records about their current status are in dispute, but
We're fairly certain that they were destroyed.
Here he's referring to the events of Fallout Tactics, and this is one of the canonical conversations in the Fallout series that hints that some, if not much of the events of Fallout Tactics are actually canonical as well. For indeed, the West Coast Elders, after the events of Fallout 2, launched a fleet of airships to explore the Midwest. They were all, however, destroyed in a vicious storm as they were approaching the ruins of Chicago. There, the surviving Brotherhood rebuilt, recruiting local tribals to fill their ranks, whereupon the events of Fallout Tactics begin.
If they don't blow it out of the sky first.
You need to learn to have a bit more faith in your brothers and sisters, soldier.
I hope you're right.
There isn't even a doubt in my mind.
They don't stand a chance.
Amen to that, soldier. In any event, I hope your tour of the Prydwen helped acclimate you to our way of life up here. I think you'll find that the more familiar you become with both her capabilities and her crew, the longer you'll survive as a member of the Brotherhood.
Exploring the command deck, we find a number of consoles and wheels, a variety of navigation devices. On one of the consoles, we find a holotape, CIT Recon Report.
Recon Report, Knight Wagner recording. It appears the intel claiming the old CIT ruins house an entrance to the Institute was incorrect. My scouts and I spent days combing the location for a way in and turned up nothing, other than a couple of minor casualties. When a contingent of synths boxed us into an old tunnel where we were sniffing around. My immediate recommendation would be to follow the trail back on whoever provided that intel. I suspect some wastelander is feeding Proctor Quinlan lies to earn some caps.
It's interesting that the synths arrived to defend the CIT ruins when the Brotherhood started exploring a pipe. This Lancer Knight was really pissed off by the intelligence that sent them there. After exploring it, he was absolutely convinced that there was no way into the Institute from the CIT ruins. And yet, if there wasn't, why would the Institute send a bunch of synths to defend it? We already know from exploring the Institute that it does lie beneath the CIT ruins. Could the intelligence the Brotherhood have gotten actually have been accurate? And this Lancer Knight just missed something important? Maybe because he was interrupted? If we talk to Captain Kells again, he's got a quest for us.
Hold up, Knight.
At 87%.
Let me make one thing clear. As a member of the Brotherhood, you serve under my command. If you want my respect, you will have to earn it. When I give you a mission, I expect results. Is that clear?
Perfectly.
Good.
I'm busy, Captain, but I'll see what I can do.
The Brotherhood is not some mercenary company. You have responsibilities, Knight. I expect you to act like it.
I have orders from Elder Maxon, Captain.
And those are your top priority. But you take orders from me as well.
What are your orders, Captain?
I want you to take charge of a recovery operation. The Brotherhood has been monitoring the Commonwealth for some time now. Ever since we learned of the synth threat, we've dispatched a number of reconnaissance teams. Paladin Dance's squad was far from the first. The previous team was dispatched 3 years ago. They never reported back. Officially, they're missing. Presumed dead.
Was there a rescue mission?
Of course not. We don't have the resources or the manpower to conduct a search like that. Recon teams in the field have to rely on their skills and training to survive. They know the risks, but we honor those who give their lives in the line of duty.
And you want me to find out what happened to them?
Correct.
They knew the risks.
They did. But we honor those who give their lives in the line of duty.
I'm sorry.
You're sorry? Then you still have a lot to learn about the Brotherhood. They knew the risk. They faced it with courage, and we honor their sacrifice. We don't feel sorry for them. Your orders are to search for the missing recon team and recover their effects. Report to me with your results. Is that understood?
This doesn't seem like a priority.
I decide our priorities, Knight. The mission stands.
Where should I begin? It's been 3 years. They could be anywhere by now. Understood.
Their insertion point was in the hills near Malden. Survey the area and establish a search pattern. Monitor your radio for distress signals. All recon teams are issued distress pulsars that put out a short-range homing beacon. Acquire a signal, and you should be able to trace it back to its source. That's all, Knight. Dismissed.
With that, we begin the side quest, The Lost Patrol. This recon team must be the recon team we read about on Elder Maxon's terminal, Recon Squad Artemis, led by Paladin Brandis. They never checked back in. They disappeared off the face of the earth. And now it's our job to track them down. Will we find any trace of Recon Squad Artemis? To find out, tune in to my next episode. I publish new Fallout episodes each and every week on my channel, so if you don't want to miss the next one, be sure to subscribe and to click that bell notification button. If you have already and you still feel like you're missing out on YouTube notifications, consider following me on Twitter at Oxhorn. I update Twitter manually with every new piece of content that I publish. I've got a plush for sale. My plush is in stock, but quantities are limited and I'm almost sold out. If you want to make sure you get your hands on one before I am, snag one today. I've also got a shirt shop with completely unique designs that you can't find anywhere else. My designs come on shirts in a variety of men's, women's, and children's sizes and in a wide array of colors. You can find them on other products as well, like smartphone cases, pillows, posters, mugs, stickers, prints, etc. So if interested, you can find a link to my shop in the description below, or you can click here. If you like what I do and you want to support me in another way, consider becoming a patron on Patreon or a member here on YouTube. YouTube members get little badges that appear next to their names in the comment sections of my videos, and they gain access to ox emojis that they can use in my video comments and in the live chats of my live streams. The best thing you can do to support me is to subscribe. The vast majority of my regular viewers are not subscribers. It doesn't take a lot of effort, and by subscribing you can get notified of each and every new video I publish. So make sure you subscribe and click that bell notification button. But more than anything, I'm just so glad you're here watching this video with me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon with the next episode in the full story of Fallout 4.